are back here on Cats and Cosby. Boy, everybody's talking about the debate. I think the winner was Trump, but let's go to the former press secretary there at the White House, Ari Fleischer. Ari, who did you think won the debate?
Oh, Rita, I have to agree with you. Nobody stood out enough, and that means Donald Trump wins the debate. I love to look at the Republican primary right now as the NCAA bracket for basketball. Donald Trump has already got the entire left side of the bracket. He's going to the championship game. And all that's left is who's on the right side, who's going to compete against him in the championship game. That's what this is all about.
So was there anyone who you thought won for the second tier, if you will, for whether it's for the cabinet or for a VP pick? I didn't see anybody who moved the dial dramatically, but were there ones that you thought stood out that won't drop out? Because I think some people got to be thinking about dropping out after this one.
One stood out, and the other gave me grounds for a bigger explanation of why he's not doing better. The one who stood out, I think, is Nikki Haley. Face it, debates are about who delivers the most best fighting line that shows Republicans that person's going to fight for what they believe in. And I thought that was Haley. I thought the way she smacked Vivek Ramaswamy with her remark about the more I listen to you, the dumber I feel.
Yeah, that was a good singer. That was.
And that Republicans want to see somebody who's got fight in them. Who's got it inside. That's one of the reasons Trump resonates so strongly. So I thought Nikki Haley delivered on that. Now, I was watching Ron DeSantis carefully, and I am convinced that Ron DeSantis is a great leader, a man who's got so much done, who sailed into the toughest winds in Florida, kept the state open during most of the pandemic, took on big causes, wins the issues that he dedicates himself to, and has changed Florida. But he can't explain it, because he comes across so dour.
He's got a communications problem, and that's what knocked him down from the very beginning.
Exactly. I was watching him saying the man's got so much good that
he's a good governor. I agree with you. He's a good governor.
So why isn't he resonating? He's too serious and too dour in his demeanor.
Yeah, and he's not, I hate to say this from an aesthetic, I didn't find him super commanding. There's something about here we are in Simi Valley, when it happened at the Reagan Library, and Ed, there's a presence about somebody that just looks like a president. They feel like a president.
He did, however, when a question was asked that should not have been asked, who would you write off the stage? And he was the first to say, no, that's an improper question. He commanded the stage. Everyone agreed with him.
It's not a game show.
Yeah.
True,
although in the
that was
first
a good
debate,
move. That was a good move on his part.
But remember the first debate, he was the one who raised his hand when they said, it was the question, remember, would you, it was about Trump, I think, remember? And he was looking to see, should I raise my hand or not?
That was in the debate before. That's
what I'm saying.
He's a little bit unsure of himself, but
So
he's finding his feet.
Governor Patterson.
This morning, Ari, I saw DeSantis interviewed on Fox, and he talked about Trump, and who he hadn't talked about last night at all. And what he was saying is that Trump said he was going to drain the swamp, and he didn't. And he talked about how Fauci was allowed to. This was an attack over about 2 or 3 minutes that's better than any Democrat I've heard make those charges against Trump himself.
Yeah, and one of these candidates is going to realize you can't beat Trump without going through Trump. And they're going to have to just take Trump head on. Now, Nikki Haley's been doing that on economic issues. She did it on China policy, military policy. But you cannot convince Republican primary voters that you're tough and you can be a president who's going to take on Washington if you won't take on Trump. So one of them is going to have to crack that code and try it.
Tim Scott came out differently this time. How do you think he did?
He did not do well. Yeah. He wanted to come out more feisty, but he picked the wrong fights, and he did so with the wrong candidates. He should have picked a fight with Trump. Again, you can't beat Trump if you don't go through Trump. He picked a fight with Nikki Haley over the curtains at the United Nations ambassador's residence that the Obama administration installed. Tim Scott had bad research, bad info. He relied on a New York Times story that blamed it on Nikki Haley that then later got retracted.
Yeah,
Tim Scott really messed up.
He's a very honest guy. I think he's a good guy. I like him a great deal. maybe he needs a little more.
Yeah, he did do better last night, I thought, than the first one. The first one, he barely popped
He
out.
should have turned down that.
Now this guy,
yeah.
what's his name? Vivek.
Michael Vick. I didn't see him there last night. Did you guys see him there? No.
I just don't stomach him for some reason.
Well, you know what? He's unbelievable. With one of the comments he made was about kicking out everybody with the birthright citizenship. Like, in other words, he's going to suddenly 30 million or 40 million. You're going to
but every time it's Richard Weinberg. Every time he talks, he says something that's foolish and naive. For example, about abandoning allies at the right time as soon as we have our chips in place.
Yeah.
Or Ukraine's really on the same moral level.
He's not presidential material, guys. Let's not waste our time.
I mean,
but
yet he's taking up stage space.
He strikes me as the Pete Buttigieg of this cycle. He's the Republican Pete Buttigieg. Very articulate, very glib. I say this with some love. He'd make a great press secretary.
I'm going to put it right next to
I don't see him as the president of the United States.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on, Ari.
We love you, Ari. Thank you.
Keep fighting for our country. Thank you so much.
Glad to be here, and thanks for the fight you put up. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ari, so much.